really the catalyst to my recovery, and everything after this moment was a result of what happened in that car, is that image of my son presented itself like a LSD hallucination. And I, and that first option seemed worth it one more time, right, for him. And ever since that moment, like, I haven't even flinched, like, it's like I was given some serious grace and blessed with a new perspective.
Hello and welcome to The Sober Social, a podcast from the HOFFA Foundation and a show about how you can live your best life sober. I'm your host, Adam Stoltz, a video producer here to help tell the stories that can change lives. I'm joined today by my co-host for this adventure and the man you should reach out to if you're in need of help or have feedback about the show, co-founder of the HOFFA Foundation, Tom Herb. Tom, say hello and tell all the listeners how they can get a hold of you and the HOFFA Foundation if they need support and would like to start a conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Tom Herb here, co-founder of the HOFFA Foundation. And at any point in time, if you want to reach out to us, you certainly can visit us at our new website, hoffafoundation.org.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. If you like what you see and hear today, please be sure to subscribe, like, share with loved ones and elected officials in your area. Leave a 5-star rating. You can also donate to HOFFA's cause right on their homepage at hoffafoundation.org. And they can't thank you enough in advance for your support. Our guest today is a person in long-term recovery. He's also a father and husband, and at his job at Tranquility Woods acts as the Director of Business Development. He is Tim Zuckas. Tim, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor. Saw the first couple podcasts that you guys did and loved every minute of it, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Well, thanks for watching as well. We certainly appreciate that. And of course, thank you for your time. Now, Tim, for those that aren't familiar with who you are, your journey, and how you ended up where you are now, can you just kind of give us a brief history of who Tim Zuckas is?
Sure. Yeah. A brief history, I suppose I can do. I'm a regular old alcoholic that found a solution. I grew up with two loving parents, that supported me in the best way that they could. I finished school and right around the time I was in 10th grade or so, I got exposed to drugs and alcohol in a very severe fashion. Actually, the last couple of years of my high school career, I lived sans parents. So I got emancipated at a young age and just like really dove deep into substance abuse. And it wasn't long after that I decided, I needed to get sober. So right around the time I was 21, 22, I walked into my first treatment center and I kept going in and out of treatment centers for about the next 9 years, in and out of 12-step fellowships, in and out of my family's life, really exhausted all options available to try and find a solution to addiction and alcoholism before I found the one that I have now. And once I latched onto that, I couldn't deny the results and what I had been searching for my whole life. I found and held on to it. Really was gifted some motivation and optimism about life at that time, and started by default kind of having my priorities fall in line for me. I learned there's one thing that I can take seriously in life. And that is, my relationship with my creator, and then everything else just kind of happened. And that hasn't changed. I've been able to remain abstinent from drugs and alcohol for about 13 and a half years now. And I have an absolute, beautiful life as a result, and trickled into my career and just like a vibration of love. And it's just amazing.
Tim, I got to tell you, man, right out of the gate, I am so glad you're here. I
Thanks.
mean, yeah. And even before, like you and I know, we got together at, the restaurant several months ago before we even started this podcasting. And I knew then, I was like, man, Tim and I need to catch up in a variety of ways. This is one of those ways, because I'm sure I'm going to learn more on this discussion, than I did when we sat down and had lunch together. And, you and I obviously have history together going back however many years ago. And so many things happened in between then and now. And you never know, like we never know who we're going to see again in life. You know what I mean? Like I tell people, whether it be at work or professional, personal, you name it, people come and go, and, you make these different experiences, but then at some point, people fade away and you may never see them again. And, you and I both know we probably, who knows if we would have seen each other ever again with the rest of our lives, right? Connected. Yeah. I mean, there's social media, but like this right here brought us together. And absolutely. I'm so glad it did, brother. I'm so glad this did. There's nothing better to me for you and everyone than our friends from the past are going to see this. They're going to be watching. They're going to be listening. And, I'm sure this is going to impact them. I'm sure this will help them and others. But I just want to put that out there, man.
Hopefully I don't owe any of them money or something.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. A pair of shoes or something, Yeah, man. But it's interesting. Your motivation to get sober. We would love to know more about that. Like, that moment, when you were, what, I'm going to take that step forward, one day at a time. And, through compound effect and incremental progress, I'm going to get better and live this beautiful life that you now live. Take us through that journey, the motivators, what inspired you to get to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, originally I found myself in my first treatment center when I was 22, and my eldest child was pretty much brand new to this world. And I had gotten addicted to prescription pain medication for some health issues I had, and found myself in my first treatment center, really only willing to do that because there was a little whisper inside of me that said, you've got to be the type of man that your son deserves. Right. I had a stepson at the time and a wife at the time, but really like that connection with my son was the driving force. I'd like to tell you that moment, when I was younger, when I was like 22, I'd like to tell you that that drive and that desire to be a good father to him was big enough for me to do the right thing afterwards. That's just not my story. And it's okay. Like I accept it. And in hindsight, I can kind of see like why things played out the way they did. But after that, I went on a really disappointing tear for about 9 years. So I went to my first treatment center. I got out of that treatment center. I was introduced to some guys in the 12-step fellowship. I shook their hands. These are the same guys that I go to now for direction that I went to back then. I mean, identically the same. And they're saying the same things then or now that they were saying then. My perception of what they were saying, or my perception of the world, has changed drastically, since I first heard it. And I think that change of perception really was what allowed me to prioritize the desire that I had to be a good father to my son. So I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I really had to burn my life to the ground over those 9 years in order for that change of perception to take place. I went to a handful of inpatient facilities. I tried outpatient facilities. I went in and out of homelessness. I was in jail, like the whole nine. And, I have some really remorseful moments and a lot of regret about the treatment that I gave my child. And, it's like a bittersweet type of feeling, because, you, as a parent, not even a parent, as a decent human being, you always want to protect children, right? I mean, you just always want to make sure that they're okay. Look both ways before you cross the street. Don't eat that off the floor. You know what I mean? Just like it's instinctual. As a parent, that's like you turn the dial all the way up to 10 at all times. Like you want to protect your kid. You want the best for your kid no matter what. So it's remorseful and regretful on my part to look at my life and my early parenting with my son and have to swallow the pill of that wasn't enough for me to stay sober. Right. It's, it's heartbreaking, dude. But the pain associated with that also provides me with a pretty powerful success story, and it also gives me a whole lot of experience when I run into other guys or girls for that matter, that are parents that had the same thing. And I can say, dude, like I was right there where you're at. Like this is all these feelings that you're feeling, I had the same feelings. And this is how I came out on the other side. Right. But it was a long, dark road to get to that awareness. Ultimately, I'm pretty open about my story. And so I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say in front of my son, but ultimately my son was living under roofs where neither of his parents lived, and it's dude, that's painful to say. And it's painful to look back at, but that's where my alcoholism and my illness brought me. And I can tell you that there was the turning point in my story is I was sitting at a subway, a metro stop in the city. And I had been gone, I hadn't seen my son in a while. I'd been in and out of his life for the first 7 years that he was alive. And I was sitting in a vehicle at this metro stop. And I, what I mean? I was hit with like an appraisal of my own life. I'm in the dark. It's winter time. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, what are you doing? Like this can't go on. And so I looked at my life and I saw like all my past experience and treatment and 12-step fellowships and like trying to like really going there and trying to get and stay sober. Right. I mean, sure, there was like times where I kind of half-assed it or whatever, but in my heart of hearts, I really wanted to be better. And I thought I checked every box that people told me to do, get a home group, get a sponsor, get a job in the home group, go through the 12 steps, pray every day, put your hand out to the new guy. Like I did all that. Right. And I still, even doing all that, I still was not content in sobriety. Like I was still, it still wasn't appealing enough for me to continue. And so all these failed attempts at treatment and like all these amends I made to people, the same amends, like time after time again, I looked at that path and that option while I was sitting in that car in the city. And I was like, dude, I can't do that again. I mean, you're talking almost a decade of failed attempts at sobriety. I was like, I can't do it again. I don't have it in me. And the other path, right? The other path was, well, I can continue on what I'm doing right now. Like I'm homeless, straight up homeless. I have no money. I probably weighed about 120 pounds if I'm lucky. I hadn't showered. I'm wearing the same set of clothes, like literally the same set of clothes for weeks at a time. And I was an IV heroin and IV cocaine user. And anytime I could get my hands on alcohol, I drank it. If my stomach was well enough to drink, I would drink. I got into a lot of trouble and I can tell you, running around the streets of Baltimore, all hours of the night is a dangerous game to play, and I was in the worst parts of Baltimore. Not just like, there's places in Baltimore you can go no matter what. I was not in those places. I was in the darkest, most dangerous places of the city. And I was like, and dude, I didn't want to be, like I tell people, like, there's something about like active addiction and active alcoholism that you really can't, it's hard to explain. You do not want to be doing what you're doing, but it's like somebody else is controlling your body and your thoughts, man. And I had plenty of times when I was driving to go cop dope and scream crying like a madman, punching my steering wheel, freaking out because I didn't want to be doing what I was doing, but I didn't have a choice in the matter, right? Because I crossed the line. So anyway, like I'm looking at that as the second option. So it's like, all right, either go this way, that clearly didn't work because I tried it for almost a decade, or go this way, which also is not working. Like, what do you do? And for the first time in my life, a third option presented itself. Right. Every other time that this happened, where I looked at my life and like, oh, I should get sober, or maybe not, because, these are the only two options. For the first time in my life, a third option presented itself. And that was to just end it. Just take my life. And at that moment, was also the first time where I had the means to do it. I'm not going to get specific about what that means, but I had the means to end my life. And I had the willingness to end my life, and I had the desperation, to do it. And I've told this story before, but at that moment, dude, like I looked at that third option and I was like, this is it,
Well, Tim, I mean, we've heard that story many times about, not, it's not you, it's literally something you feel like someone else is controlling you, and that, that third option has presented itself to many people. And I know you even said that your son was a reason to get sober, but did you find through this whole process of finally getting sober, was a lot of that due to the fact that you had to go back and not only make amends, but come to peace and actually confront all these things you had done in your life and be at peace with them? Or, because I found one thing was, admitting to yourself, hey, I've done these things and I have to own up to them now. Did you find that as part of your journey as well, through healing and all that, to get to where you are?
I mean, I wish I could say, yeah, that was it, but it wasn't. Like, dude, when I tell you that if I'm not living the way I'm living today, I am a complete monster. I am an absolute, I don't have these feelings, right? So when that, when I looked at that third option, the moment I decided to end my life, I had almost like an out of body experience. I used to be real hesitant to tell this story, but then I started kind of opening up and telling it because it makes me sound like an absolute psychopath, right? But I tell it anyway because it's my truth. And as soon as I decided to end my life, a vivid image of my son's face presented itself right in front of me, and so real that I could touch it. And what trumped all, everything that you just mentioned, I didn't even think about. Really, the catalyst to my recovery and everything after this moment was a result of what happened in that car. Is that image of my son presented itself like a LSD hallucination, and I, and that first option seemed worth it one more time, right, for him. And ever since that moment, like I haven't even flinched, like it's like I was given some serious grace and blessed with a new perspective from that moment on, that like no matter what, my son deserves me to try one more time. And I also in that moment made up my mind, like if this doesn't work this time, all right, fine, I know I got option 3, but it did work. I took 100% of the suggestions that were given to me, made some very, very difficult decisions in my early sobriety, my early recovery, that ended so well. Like I could never have done it without assistance. But but that's what happened. Not, not I'm a good person and I feel bad that I had to make all these amends. And no, like, I wish I could say that that was me, but it was not me, because I have severe alcoholism. When I'm not living on a certain spiritual path, like, I don't even consider your feelings at all. I'm just, that's not me.
Hmm. Tim, I was thinking, man, like, one of the things that I've found in my journey is that some of the tough decisions you have to make along the way are the people that you associate yourself with, right? Even some of the friendships from long ago that, you have those distant memories, yet that, you can't lean into it too much because, it could create some sort of trigger or do something that, you don't want to do. So, how has that been for you? I watch you from afar, and you and I got together and had conversations, and we're still catching up. And I look at you, man, you are an amazing father. You're a business leader, you're a mentor, you're an artist, you're a husband, you're all these great things, man. And you'll continue to do very well. I know that, man. I see that inside of you. And I also see you like a light around you, man. Like you just shine every time I engage with you. And that's one thing, when you said you were in a deep, dark place in that moment, like you didn't let your light go out. That little pilot light with you was still on, and you just continue to illuminate. And, of course, you're on a journey of helping others now at Tranquility Woods and beyond. And so anyway, back to my question, I guess, around just some of those tough decisions around people you hang out with, places you go, just things that could create some triggers. How are you able to navigate through that? Because people are going to be listening and watching this and going through some of that stuff currently, or they know someone's going through it, and just curious to know, how do you get through all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's case specific, Tommy. Like what I would say to one person, I might not say to the other person. Right. I mean, my trigger is sobriety. So I can't escape that no matter what. Like, everything's a trigger. I could be having the best day ever, but if I'm not treating my spiritual condition and I'm not maintaining my spiritual fitness, that best day ever is going to could potentially turn around with me having a needle in my arm, but you got to be smart, right? Or I got to be smart. I can't take chances unless my motivation is pure, especially in the infancy of recovery. So, you better believe that, my first handful of months sober, like, I didn't go to places where I feel comfortable going to now, like I wouldn't go into a bar even for lunch then. Whereas now, like, last time I saw you, we were arm's reach away from alcohol. I'm not tempted by it now. Whereas I didn't want to take the chance in the infancy of my recovery to be tempted. Right. So I kind of put this little bubble around me of like safety, and put myself around people that I could see were living a life of happiness and sobriety at the same time. I'm not going and hanging, reaching out to old friends. Now I would, though. There's plenty of people you and I know that could really benefit from a different way of life. And I want to be intentional and deliberate in putting myself in front of them now. But back then, no. So to answer your question, like, do you have to, everybody says like, you got to change people, places, and things, right? I mean, to some extent, yeah, that's the safest play when you're young in recovery. But right now, like, I want to be there. Like, I want to be in the trenches, plucking out people that I love, and even, strangers, and expose them to that light, and that new life.
Well, and Tim, what is it about that service to others? What is it about that interaction with other people that has helped you along your journey? And would you consider service to others a key factor in really helping you along the way?
Me personally, yeah, it is the cornerstone of my recovery. When I first got sober, my outlook on life, as it pertains to like God, for instance, was that there is no God. If there was a God, he wouldn't have dealt me the hand that he dealt me. And then I did kind of change that up and felt like, all right, maybe there is a God, but he doesn't want anything to do with me, and that kind of like, I kind of softened as time went on. But I can tell you that the reason why I had what I consider to be a relationship with God was because of service to others. Because, there's one thing, there's one thing that you have that I'll never have, right? And that's a clear, objective view of my life. Because my life, I'm always, I'm looking at the world with my resentment and my desires and my pain and my trauma and, and my wishes, all these things, right? So like I'm seeing it with like the tainted lens. But there's one thing that I have that you'll never have as far as I'm concerned, and it's that in reverse. So like I can see in your life something different than what you see in your life. And the same thing goes for service to others, right? So like I got out of treatment, I got expedited through the steps in real short order. My sponsor tells me like, you gotta get alcohol and drugs and everything, all these worldly powers were not my problem. They were the solution to my problem. So you're stripping all this stuff away from me. I'm just left with my problem, right? And if I don't substitute it with another solution ASAP, I'm going to always revert back to my old solution, which is drugs and alcohol and reckless behavior and dangerous things. So what I was taught and shown rather is that I need to throw myself in the business of helping other people, and then I can see in them what I cannot see in my own self. So yeah, I felt better going through the steps, sure, right? Like some pretty cool things happened in that time. And but like I could not see the power that God has made available until I helped somebody else come from complete darkness to having that light, right? So I'm seeing this person heal, and I'm seeing the light in their eyes glow, and I'm seeing them have a desire to want to go help somebody else. So that service to others piece, like, dude, like super motivating, because I can just see it's a lot easier for me to see in other people, that change. And then to watch like a fellowship grow up around you where all these guys are just trying to help other guys. Like you really invite an awareness of God into your life when you see that. And so I don't need to go to another 12-step meeting for the rest of my life. I know that's like taboo to say, but that is the God's honest truth. I can remain happy and sober for the rest of my life if I don't attend another 12-step meeting. But it's a stocked pond of people to help, right? So how can I not go and try and help people there, but some parts of my life in my early recovery, like I was home alone with my two boys and I couldn't get to a meeting, right? And so I realized that I could be of service to them, have true altruism and just trying to help another one of God's kids and get the same result in my spirit that I did when I would take somebody through the 12 steps. And then once I realized that like, it's not about helping other people in recovery, it's about helping all God's kids. Then I started to like dip my toe in some other areas of service, like the old lady at the grocery store parking lot struggling with her cat litter in her cart, dude. Like, stop what you're doing, pick that up, put it in her trunk, shut her trunk and say, have a nice day, and then keep it moving. And, like, dude, something happens inside of us when we behave that way, right? That's how I believe we were designed, is to look out and help out other people. And when you just kind of put that vibe out there, all of a sudden, it's just like you see the world in a different place, and you see areas of opportunity to help all the time. And it's just like such a beautiful way to live. I miss the mark a lot too. Like, I don't want to sound like some like whatever super duper helpful, spiritual guru. That's definitely not me. But I can tell you that I try my absolute best and I get the results because of it.
Absolutely, Tim. That's awesome, man. So, obviously, when people wake up every day, we've got to get up, we've got to go to work, we have to provide for our family. And, there's always that saying, do something where you've got, purpose and passion, and it's meaningful and can make an impact. And, people will spin it a million different ways, whether you're in sales or something else, they try to come up with something that makes them feel really good. But what you do today, what you were doing in sales, and of course, what you do today ties right into service to others. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So when I was like probably like a year sober, I took an entry-level sales job, and kind of worked my way up over, in that company, to the point where I was like pretty comfortable. I was a district sales manager for one of one of the largest third-party logistics companies in the country, and I was doing okay. But like I had this little side life, right? Of like 12-step fellowship and recovery, and like, it's my personal passion, but I would go to work and I'll try to help people at work, but it was just like different. And I felt like I reached a plateau. You know what I mean? Like I wanted more. And so I did what I always do. And I asked for direction. I prayed and I said, hey, if I'm supposed to be doing something else, like smack me in the face with it. And I reached out to just a couple people, and in about 2 weeks time, somebody sent me a text message, say, hey, this place is hiring. You should go interview there. And it was, Tranquility Woods, where I work now. They weren't hiring for the job I have now. They're hiring for an entry level kind of like treatment consultant role, basically like somebody who answers the phone and kind of helps people with their journey into the facility. And so I went there, spoke to the owner and spoke to the executive director, and they were just like, sorry, you're overqualified for this position. Like I had, 20 years of phone sales experience up to that point, right? And I was overqualified for that position. And I walked in the first time in my life, I walked into an interview and I was unconcerned with the result, right? I was like, I'm good. Like, if you hire me or not, I'm good. I'd like to see what's going on here. And, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. And they said, it's, you're just overqualified for this. And I said, okay, I think I could probably do a little bit more than what you're hiring for. And if you change your mind, let me know down the road. And I left there smiling and everything was fine. And they reconsidered over the weekend. They called me back. Hey, can you come in one more time? And I was hired as the director of admissions there. And, but I was on the phone a lot too. And I started to see like recovery from a different perspective. I'm so selfish of a human that like a lot of times I'm only concerned about how things are affecting me. And the guys that I ran around with in recovery, basically the same way, like alcoholism is essentially just like self-centered fear, in a million different ways shown itself. But this role at Tranquility Woods, I was hearing spouses, and I was hearing parents, and I was hearing siblings desperate to help their loved ones. And that was something that, I had very little experience with. And I started to see like broken families on the front end get their loved one into treatment. I got to see that person grow. I got to see them be kind of resistant or hopeless about recovery. And I started to see like a quick change in them, and like the beauty associated with like families coming together. Dude, lit an absolute fire in me. And I mean, it's like, whatever, it's corny, it's cliche to say like, if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day again in your life. But I mean, don't tell my boss this, but I'm getting paid to do what I love, and things that I would do anyway for free. You know what I mean? So I am absolutely spoiled to be able to do this. And, the treatment space, that career path can be taxing, and like I'm getting up from dinner with my family a lot of the times to go handle something. And it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. My wife is supportive, my kids understand. But it's just like, it is me, like this place is special to me. This approach to life, it's all like one. It's like a unity of life that I don't know. I couldn't plan it out any better. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
man.
And,
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Tom. I was just saying.
No, jump in, man.
Tim, when we interviewed Brandon Novak, I actually watched some stuff of him and Steve-O talking about recovery, and something they brought up is that one of the biggest things is people that tend to go and help people with their recovery are often the ones that slide back into it so easily. Have you found it difficult being around those families and those people? And if so, what are some things that you've taken in your life to ensure that you're not one of those statistics of the people in the recovery area?
Well, I mean, I have a pretty solid insurance plan against that, right? So like I said, there's one thing in my life that I take seriously. Literally, there's only one that I put all the chips to the center of the table on, and that's my relationship with God. And as long as I stay focused on that, he provides me with everything that I need. And as long as I don't intentionally turn my back on an opportunity to be of service to one of his kids, I'm safe. I don't care what anybody says, so that insurance policy grows bigger and bigger and bigger every day that goes along for me. Now, the flip side of that coin is if I lose sight of what life is about, and it's not about my job, right? I can go get another job, no problem. I would never want to, but like I could. It's about the peace that I've been afforded. So my recovery is not about quitting drinking or doing drugs at all. Like, that's a byproduct. My recovery and the safety that I have in my recovery is about peace. It's about the ability to breathe easy. That's all I've ever wanted in my whole life, man. Like I'm arguing with my dad in the 4th grade to buy me a pair of Jordans, not because I really wanted Jordans. It's because of how it would make me feel when I wore them on the first day of school. That like, oh, okay, now I don't have to worry. Like everybody's gonna see my shoe and it's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna make fun of me. That's like, and like that carried on throughout my whole life. So I'm not concerned about relapsing because I'm protected. Like, if I lose sight of that relationship with God, you better believe I'm in danger. But right now, man, I'm good. Not concerned with it. And I also don't prioritize my career over my recovery. Some people do. I've seen that in the treatment space where people want to be so successful, at their job that they lose sight of what got them into that opportunity in the first place. And that's just not me.
In the I was thinking about, man, as you were talking, the Jordan, situation with the Jordans, how you feel, it's how you feel and how you think others feel, perception, all those things. And it's interesting. What I see in my early journey is that, being sober at events, functions, I mean, it's all around us, right? Is almost like abnormal. Like people look at it that way, right? Like, what do you mean you're not going to this, birthday party or this, that? I mean, you name it, right? There's always something to get together, surrounded by alcohol, drugs, everything, right? So, how do you, I mean, the peace thing, man, I'm with you on that. Like, being able to just breathe and feel like that big, wet, heavy blanket's not on your back is so important. But the people listening to this, we call it the sober social, basically, how do you live your best life sober? And how do you break through and get to the side of, hey, like you said, you can go out to a place now and be within arm's reach of the alcohol or the stuff that perhaps before when you had the bubble, you couldn't do that. Now you can. But for people listening to this out there and watching, something that would really resonate with them on, hey, that feeling of this is abnormal. How do you make that go away till you get to a point where one, you don't care. It's just being how you are, but then also that, you just don't worry about what other people think, and, you push through the other side.
Man, that's a tough question. Because it's kind of individualized, what is awkward to one person might be, desired by the other. For me, I did have those moments where I thought like, not that I was going to be in danger of relapse, but like I'd go, like, what is my reason really for going to a club? I'm 31 years old. I'm in South Florida. All my friends are going to a club. Like, am I really going to like enjoy the music? Am I going because like the excitement of that environment and like it's kind of sketchy? Like, is that what I'm after? And I think what it boils down to is my motivation for doing these things, right? So if I'm, and my motivation has changed since getting sober than it did before. If you would have caught me at at 20 years old and said, "Hey, Zukas, let's go to an Orioles game," I would have immediately thought, "Sweet, we can get hammered drunk at the Orioles game and act a fool," right? But like now, if you called me up and said, "Let's go to an Orioles game," I'd be like, "That's gonna be awesome, man. It's gonna be a beautiful day." Like, get to to be candid with you, I'd probably be like, "Yeah, we can get like some really good stadium food." You know what I'm saying? But like the alcohol motivation is gone. So I mean, words of encouragement for people, like it's really individualized, Tom. Like, as long as your motivation is pure and you have a firm foundation of recovery already, and you go to these things maybe with some people that you trust and have your best interests in mind, then, then test it out. Like, I didn't get sober to live a life of fear. You know what I mean? I was living a life of fear, and that's why I got sober. So I'm not gonna be scared to go enjoy life, man. That's what it's there for, but I'm also not going to take unnecessary risks. If my motivation is not pure, I'm not going to do it. I've had plenty of situations in my recovery that other people would really be concerned with. But like I've had needles and heroin in each hand in early recovery. Not for me. Like, I was taking somebody to the hospital and this was in their pocket. You know what I mean? Like, my motives were pure. I was going to try and help somebody, and I ended up in like a sketchy situation, but I wasn't tempted, at all. So it's individualized. It's up to the person. It's kind of like, how strong they feel in their recovery. And I was all, I'm always surrounded by people in recovery now. Like, I don't think I have any friends that are close to me that aren't in recovery. And it's not a boring life, like, in fact, I get to actually remember all the stuff that I go and do now. I mean, I have friends that aren't in recovery and I love them, but the people that I keep the closest to me are on a similar path as I am.
Well,
It's amazing, man. The clarity, getting your Saturday and Sunday mornings back, right? I mean, before it'd be like, 12 o'clock would be still early. And now it's like, get up, watch the sunrise, have a cup of coffee, get the kids up. You get all those days back, so much more clarity. Everything, absolute to your point, is so much more beautiful. And so, I was thinking as you were going through everything so far, and thinking, man, again, going back to my opening comments about you and I getting together after a long period of time. And, I'm on this screen, lost my brother. You're on this screen, you made a decision, right? With your son, seeing that image, and here we are. And I know that we're going to, I'm sure, receive phone calls and emails from people that, we've known from the past. And to your point, think we're ready and prepared, to get out there, roll the sleeves up and make that impact. It's very much needed. I thought about today. I didn't realize this. I saw it on social media early and share with you before we started the podcast that, today happens to be the first ever National Fentanyl Awareness Day.
Mhm.
And how this is just ravaging through our communities and it's everywhere. And, we really have to make sure that we're educated. We talk to our children, so many different, just horrific stories out there, kids of all ages, 14, 15, you name it. And so, we all have kids on this podcast, you, Adam, and I, and making sure we keep things at the forefront with them. So I guess to the parents out there listening, on that educational awareness piece, almost ties right into, you can't ignore it. Got to work together to break the stigma. What's a message, something that could really resonate with them to help out? It's great that we have these awareness days now to get it out there and to learn, but what else could parents be doing right now to help their kids to ensure that, they don't perhaps go down to the deep, dark places where we've been?
Oh, dude, I can tell you that a huge lesson that I learned, and I learned it in recovery, a lot of people, it seems, come to me and they're like, man, you are like a really good dad. You know what I mean? It's like, I've been branded by it. I don't know that it's justified or not. I know I try my best and, that's all I can do. But what I can tell you is a lesson that I learned as it pertains to drug and alcohol use, but really can be applied to a lot of other areas in life. I learned it with my eldest child, and I was like a really overbearing parent. You know what I mean? Like I was like hawking my son for a good part of his life. He moved out. He's 20 years old now. So he lives about an hour and a half away from me. And I changed my whole approach to parenting when that happened. And what I did was I went back to just reiterating and emphasizing that, like, look, dude, I already know you're going to make your own decisions. You're an adult now. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to love you any less. What I do have to offer you is support and a wealth of experience in both what works and what doesn't work, and if you experiment with something and you're struggling, or you experiment with something and you're loving it, you can come and talk to me about it, and you're not going to get any judgment cast, dude. And that has proven to be very effective. Like, it seems as though the more intense approach of like supervision that I had in parenting, the further and further my son backed away from me. And when I kind of switched gears a little bit and I was like, look, bro, I'm here if you need me. I kind of like used what I was taught in the 12-step fellowship that I go to when, in sponsoring guys. Like, I don't chase people down that don't want help, right? Because that just pushes them further and further away. I make myself available. I tell them why it might be beneficial to utilize me. And if they decide they want to do that, then here I am. And that has worked with my son. And it was instinctual. It wasn't like, all right, I've got this cool strategy now. It was like, it just came out. And so I would say, like, what 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid is going to go to their parents and confide in them when they're experimenting with drugs and alcohol? Probably none, right? But the parents that are like, they're supportive and they understand that their kids are going to make kid decisions and they make themselves available. Like, I feel like if I was a 15-year-old kid, that's who I would go to. I wouldn't go to the parent that's like, if you drink at this party, I'm going to murder you. Well, then I'm just going to be slick about drinking. I'm not going to tell you. So I would recommend trying that. But like, the unfortunate fact of the matter is that kids are going to be kids, and to the parents out there, like, they're going to make decisions that are not going to be in their best interest. And it's going to be an opportunity for them to grow, or, sometimes they're going to make decisions that are catastrophic, and even fatal. But for the parents, like, there's only so much that you can do, you make your love available, and you make your support available and your wisdom available. And then that's it. The rest is kind of out of your hands.
Tim, that was well said, man. I think that's the best I've ever heard it explained, because we've asked that question before. How do you help a young kid that, of course, doesn't want to listen to or talk to an adult? I think that was well said, and we are up on time here, but I do want to ask you one more thing, because it's come up quite a bit, and a lot of what you said is perception. And one of my favorite sayings is perception's everything. It really is. So I know this is a tough one, but I mean, how would you advise someone to even start changing that perception or that perspective on if they're in that dark place and in need of starting recovery? What are some tips or tricks or just some ideas of how you can start changing that perspective and seeing the light a little bit?
Oh, I don't think they can. I can tell you, if it was as easy as making a decision to change my perception, dude, I would have done that at 16 when I was a 16-year-old heroin addict. Like, I think that things have to align in a certain way. And that perception, that change of perception is a gift given to you based on action that you take, right? So I can't work on myself like that. Even now today, like, I can't change my perception. I take action. And like I said, in helping others. And as a byproduct of that selflessness, my perception changes. And when you're in active addiction, you can't just change your perception. You got to take that action. You got to say, listen, I can't live like this anymore. I need help. Tell me what to do. And then you got to move your feet in that direction. And nobody can change your perception for you. The court system can't do it. Your parents can't do it. You've got to take the action and be the catalyst for your own change, and be open to some solutions that maybe you don't believe in or subscribe in or think are real, but there's principles of this universe out there that have the power to change even the hardest, person. And you just have to kind of make yourself available for that and take action towards it.
Well said again, Tim. Well said. I love it, man. And action, I think action is the answer to everything. You got to take that step and that leap of faith, and then everything else follows. So, well, Tom, unless you had something else, I'll go ahead and close this up.
Yeah, can you all hear me still?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I thought it cut out for a second. I just want to say, Tim, one, I love you, man.
Me too,
yeah, man, I appreciate you getting on here. It means so much. And, again, I learned a lot from this, and others will as well. And what I'm drawing out of this, man, like just some of the common denominators. I mean, the connectivity around love, respect. You mentioned wisdom, support. It's amazing how powerful those things are. Right. Yeah. I mean, just genuinely, authentically leaning into another human being and providing that guidance and being that light and moving them along, because you obviously were there before. And then, like you said, through duplication, you get one that can go help out someone else, that can help someone else. It can create some major groundswell momentum. And next thing you know, you've got an entire community that you've now impacted. And there's no doubt about it, man, you are going to certainly impact many people for the rest of your life. And I can't wait to be right by your side and help out any way I can, man. And take our relationship to the next level. So I appreciate you being on here, man.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Great. And Tim, before we go, just someone that may need help or doesn't know where to turn, can you just tell us how they can get a hold of Tranquility Woods and how that might be an option for some people?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's in need of like inpatient substance use disorder and mental health care, they can just go to our website, www.tranquilitywoods.com. There's an admissions line at the top, or just, Google search Tranquility Woods and it'll kind of route you to it. But yeah, I mean, and you know what, if somebody is in need of residential substance use disorder treatment, they can call it, regardless of if they end up in Tranquility Woods or not. Like, we'll help them find a place. We'll steer them in the direction that, that they have the resources for, or whatever it is. It's not like, oh, you have to be a certain type of person to go to Tranquility Woods. Like, we'll help you find a place no matter what.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And again, man, great stuff today. We really appreciate your words of wisdom and your story and sharing it with us and being honest with our viewers. We really appreciate it. To all of you out there, of course, if you like what you saw in here today, please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating. You can also, again, Donate to HOFFA's cause on their homepage at HOFFAFoundation.org. And as we always say, please share with your loved ones, elected officials. Let's get the word out there. Take care of one another. And we're going to see you next time on the Sober Social.